So this is a demo of this ecosystem design software that I'm designing, or a Biosphere design software. And so the idea here is you can take these individual inputs of these individual modules here, and you can put the inputs and outputs together so you can see how they all fit together and create these reciprocal systems that are powered entirely by sunlight. So over here you can see sunlight. So I can move this over here, I can move this around, and you can see that the sunlight is coming into the farm bot along with light from the LED grow lights. And the farm bot is taking in water from, where is this? This is from the liquid fertilizer. It looks like, let me put this up here so you can see that a little bit better. So you can see liquid fertilizer is coming into here, and then out we're getting vegetables and inedible biomass. If we follow those, you can see that the vegetables are going in to the human here. And then out of the human, you see we have urine and feces. The green is solids and the blues are liquids. And then this sort of teal color are actual systems or processes. And so the feces are then going into a, where is that going? It's going into the macerating toilet over here, which is then going into the biodigester over here that's digesting those things into a biogas that's coming into the generator, which is over here. Now I can move it over here. And the generator is putting out 1.5 kilowatt hours of electricity per day, which isn't much, but you can scale these biodigesters because they're modular, so you can have as many as you need to meet your needs. I just put this in as an example. Then you have the electricity from that going to these three things that require electricity. The farm bot, which is a computer-controlled farming device, and the shredder that's happening over here, created by Precious Plastic, and then LED grow lights over here. And so you can see that this is a materially closed, energetically open system where there's sunlight coming in, and that's what's driving this entire process. I guess I'll speak to the water system as well. You can see that the urine is coming out and being turned into liquid fertilizer, running through the plant beds. It also goes into a sterilization tank here, so it gets pasteurized to make sure that it's completely free of human pathogens, which is also true of the biodigester effluent because you are pooping in it. So you are definitely going to want to have a sterilization process just to be absolutely sure that there's no human pathogens. But that's a very simple process. It's just heat. It's just a tank that gets hot. So very, very simple technology. And so the sterilization tank takes that waste and puts it into a liquid fertilizer tank, which is then mixed with clean water, which goes into the farm bot and the G towers, which are vertical. These are horizontal beds, and these are vertical beds, so together they utilize space very well. And then out of the G towers and the farm bot comes cleaner water, and then the cleaner water is able to be pumped through a slow sand filter as a pre-filter, and then a ceramic filter, which creates potable water for the human to drink over here. Now, as you can tell, this is just a very preliminary design software that we threw together using a JavaScript library. But you get the idea. I mean, obviously you can see that there's some problems here, like this. I would really love these lines to self-direct to the shortest path. Right now they stay on the one side or the other, so sometimes you get these funny loops that are kind of unnecessary. We're going to try and fix that in the code. If you are a coder and want to help with this, feel free to jump in. But if you're like a permaculture designer and you understand the utility of a piece of software like this, please spread the word, because this is what we're trying to make. Ideally, you can see that some of these are just general ideas, and some of them are actually specific quantities of things. Ultimately, what we want to create is a piece of software that actually does math for you. So that if you know that this, like for example, this is an IBC biodigester. This is an actual thing that actually exists that we know if you give it a kilogram of biomass per day, you'll get a cubic meter of biogas, which can then run a 2 kilowatt generator for 45 minutes, which is equal to 1.5 kilowatt hours. And then if you know that you need, say, 80 kilowatt hours to grow food without sunlight, just from electricity alone, then you should be able to work backwards and figure out how many of these biodigesters you need and how much biomass you need to be feeding them, and from that determine how much biomass you need to be collecting, for example. And so obviously it's possible for humans to do this, but we're also right on the cusp of being able to have computers do this very simple math for us so that we can create these reciprocal cycles. And obviously this isn't necessarily absolutely 100% how it's going to work. But the idea is that this design should get us close enough that we can then actually build these systems and we can test our assumptions and see how they work and create this sort of open source citizen science process that allows us to build things, document how they work, share our methods and our results, and assuming that other people can reproduce our results by reproducing our methods, which is the fundamental basis of all science, then we should be able to say, like, I trust that this person is actually getting these results with this biodigester. And therefore, if I can reproduce their results, then I should need this many of these biodigesters to produce this much biogas, to produce this much electricity, to run these types of grow lights, for example. So what I envision is this open source library of individual modules that can all be connected together in this virtual design software that will then allow people to actually build and design whole biospheres, kind of as a game. The idea would be that a certain biodigester produces a certain amount of biogas, a certain generator takes a certain amount of biogas and puts out a certain amount of electricity in exchange. And you would just try and balance all the systems so that everything that you're producing is at either net zero or net positive. And the way that that's possible, it's not free energy, the way that it's possible is that it's all coming from the sun. You're either utilizing photovoltaics using actual solar panels, or you're utilizing the energy stored in the molecules of biomass that are synthesized from sunlight in the process of photosynthesis by plants. And so using this, I think it's possible to make these entirely closed reciprocal systems that allow humans to meet all of their needs at a very high level, high standard of living, using simple and available open source or useful source, which means available off the shelf, even if the technologies themselves are not available. For example, a generator. There's not very many open source gas generators. There could be, but not that I've found. But these are so easy to buy, you can buy one of these at Home Depot. So even though this is not open source, because they're all made by private companies, it's useful source because you can easily get it. And so if I tell you that this design requires this thing, it's still easy for you to get that thing and replicate what I've done. So it's functionally open source. So that's this idea. I'm calling this idea sim biogenesis. SIM is in simulation, because I do like puns. And because the symbiogenesis is this idea that complex organisms arise from the integrated symbiosis of smaller organisms. For example, the complex cell with its mitochondria and its chloroplasts in plants. Those organelles were originally free-living bacteria that eventually became part of a larger cell. And through that integrated symbiosis of reciprocal and mutually beneficial chemical relationships, they were able to evolve into something much more complex that eventually evolved into multicellular organisms, which then evolved into whole ecosystems. And that's the level of life that we're on now. And I think that this process will help us evolve past the individual ecosystem level to the biosphere level, where this model is essentially a human-designed algae cell. It's a meta-algae cell. These farm bots, the G-towers and these plants, are totally analogous to the chloroplasts in plant cells. And this biodigester over here, where did I put that? This biodigester is analogous to the mitochondria. It takes, well, the biodigester and the generator together. The mitochondria take in complex cells and they break them down through the process of cellular respiration, and they produce ATP, which is an extremely highly useful and easily transferable energy. So it's basically analogous to us using electricity. It's a very high-grade form of energy that the cell can use. So what we're creating here is a living organism, a meta cell that includes humans, but also is an integrated symbiosis with plants, animals, fungi, and bacteria, so that what we're creating is a meta cell that we can live in. that turns our entire homes and our dwellings and our cities ultimately into what they call photoautotrophs, which are organisms that are capable of nourishing themselves entirely from the sun, which is what all plants are, and also photosynthetic bacteria. So it's a way for us to stop being consumers in the ecosystem sense and become producers with our intelligence and our creativity and our human design and our technology in a way that is actually working with the patterns of nature rather than working against them. So that's the idea for sim biogenesis, and I hope you all like this. And if you want to get involved with this project, either support my Patreon or just get in contact with me if you have friends who are coders or you have any coding skills or just want to get involved with this project in some way. Let me know, because I think this would be an extremely useful tool, and I'm really ready to start working on the beta version.